She poisoned 4 husbands, her mother, her sister, and her grandson. When she was finally caught, she laughed through the entire confession. They called her the Giggling Granny. On the surface, she was the picture-perfect, smiling grandmother next door. But behind closed doors, a quiet terror was brewing in her kitchen, one deadly recipe at a time. This is her crime. Nannie Doss was born Nancy Hazel on November 4, 1905, in Blue Mountain, Alabama. She was one of 5 children raised under a strict and controlling father who pulled his children from school to work the family farm. Her escape from that hard, loveless childhood was romance magazines, stories of perfect love and ideal husbands that shaped a fixation she would carry for the rest of her life. At around the age of 7, Nannie suffered a serious head injury on a train. She would later blame that injury for her behavior. Whether that claim was genuine or calculated, nobody could say. What followed over the next 3 decades would leave investigators struggling to comprehend how one woman could smile so warmly while doing what she did. Her first marriage was to George Fraser in 1921. They had 4 children together. 2 of those children died under suspicious circumstances. What Nannie described as accidental poisoning. Fraser was unconvinced. He left and never came back. Nobody investigated. Nobody asked questions. And Nannie moved on to find her next perfect husband. Her second husband was Frank Harrelson, an alcoholic she endured for 16 years before poisoning him with rat poison in 1945. Her third was Arlie Lanning, a womanizer who died after ingesting rat poison. Shortly after his death, the house they had shared burned to the ground with his elderly mother inside. Nannie collected the insurance money and kept searching for the love she had read about in her magazines. Her fourth husband, Richard Morton, died 3 months into their marriage after drinking arsenic-laced coffee. Each death was ruled natural causes. Each time Nannie collected insurance money, each time she moved on. She was patient, she was methodical, and she was completely invisible to the world around her because nobody suspected the cheerful grandmother who baked pies and laughed at her own jokes. Between husbands, Nannie also turned her attention to family members. She poisoned her own mother. She poisoned her sister Dovie. She poisoned a grandson. She poisoned a mother-in-law. Each death surrounded by the ordinary rhythms of family life. Meals prepared, coffee served, a warm smile across the kitchen table. The arsenic was always in the food. The smile never left her face. In 1953, Nannie married her 5th and final husband, Samuel Doss, a Nazarene minister who disapproved of her romance novels and controlled the household finances strictly. She first tried to poison him with an arsenic-laced prune cake. He became ill and spent a month recovering in hospital. When he came home, she finished the job with a cup of arsenic-laced coffee. Samuel Doss died shortly after returning home. The doctor who had treated Samuel Doss during his hospitalization had suspected something was wrong. He persuaded Nannie to allow an autopsy, telling her it would save lives. The autopsy revealed a massive dose of arsenic in Samuel's system, far more than enough to kill. The doctor alerted police. Nannie Doss was arrested in 1954. What happened in the interrogation room disturbed investigators more than anything they had uncovered in the case so far. Nannie Doss sat across from detectives and confessed. She described the deaths in detail. She recounted the poisonings methodically, and throughout the entire confession she giggled. She laughed. She remained cheerful and chatty as she described killing the people closest to her across 3 decades. Reporters covering the case were stunned by the footage and descriptions of her demeanor. They dubbed her the Giggling Granny. The contrast between her warm, grandmotherly appearance, plump, bespectacled, quick to smile, and the cold reality of what she had done made her a national sensation. She confessed to killing 4 of her husbands, her mother, her sister, her grandson, and her mother-in-law. When asked about her motive, Nannie Doss insisted money played no significant role. Despite collecting multiple insurance payments, she maintained that her murders were driven by something else entirely. A search for the perfect romantic love she had read about in her true romance magazines since childhood. When reality failed to match the fantasy, she eliminated the husband and started again. The bodies of her previous victims were exhumed. Massive doses of arsenic were found in each one. The autopsies confirmed what investigators had begun to suspect, that Nannie Doss had been quietly poisoning her way through her own family for nearly 30 years without a single person catching on. The arsenic in one body was described as enough to kill 20 men. Oklahoma prosecutors built their case around the murder of Samuel Doss. In 1955, Nannie Doss was sentenced to life in prison. She was spared the death penalty in part because of her age and her gender. She never expressed remorse. She never stopped smiling. She served 10 years before dying of leukemia in 1965 at the age of 59. She baked pies, she made coffee, she dreamed of the perfect husband. And when reality disappointed her, she reached for the arsenic and started over. The giggling granny poisoned 11 members of her own family across 3 decades. She confessed while laughing. She died in prison still smiling. The perfect husband never existed. The 11 people she destroyed while searching for him did. She poisoned 11 people across 30 years and nobody noticed. When she finally confessed, she laughed. The jury only heard about 4 of them. What happened to the other 7? Nobody will ever fully know. Drop a comment with your thoughts. The case file closes here. The next one opens Monday.